Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm making this video because there were a lot of people who had emailed me and said that they had questions or they were confused about the Khan Academy videos for Monday. So I'm just going to do a quick video on those two exercises. Basically, the first exercise requires you to choose this either the table, graph, or equation that has the fastest rate of change or speed. So I have 3 different examples here that I made up, and we're going to go through how you figure out the speed or rate of change for each of those different ways of displaying information. Okay? So first of all, you should know that rate of change is how much y changes while x changes, and it's also known as speed. So if you think about speed, we normally say miles per hour, right? So in that case, miles per hour, mph, the miles and the hours are your x and the y. And the per tells you how much they're changing. So each hour that passes, how many hours, or each hour that passes in the car or the train or whatever, how many miles also changes. So you're comparing 2 different variables and how they change together. Whenever you do that, you're really talking about speed. Okay, so rate of change is just a fancy way of saying speed, how much one variable is changing while the other is also changing. Okay, so if we were to look at the rate of change, or how fast something is growing or slowing down, in a table, how much y is changing while x is changing, all we gotta do is figure out what that change is. So at first, x was 1 and y was 3. Then the next time we measured it, x was 2 and y was 6. The third piece of information we have is that once x reaches 3, y has reached 9. So we want to know how much y is changing each time while x is changing each time. So I know going from 3 to 6, y is going up by 3. While y has increased by 3, x has increased by 1. Okay, from the second piece of information to the third, y has changed from 6 to 9, which is, again, adding 3. And then while y is increasing by 3, x is increasing by 1 again. Okay, so here we see that the change is constant. It is exactly the same both times. So it's, in addition to saying there's a rate of change, it's a constant rate of change. Okay, because it's not adding 3 at one point, then adding 6, and then adding 5, and then adding 1. It's constant. It's the same thing each time. So how much is y changing while x is changing? Well, y is changing by 3 each time. So keep in mind that the order is kind of funky. You would think that it would be alphabetical, but it's actually not. Okay, it's change of y over x. Because normally x is like time, right? And y would be like miles. So it'd be like miles per hour kind of thing. That's why it's kind of flipped, okay? So the y is changing by 3 each time, and the x is changing by 1. So our rate of change here is 3. Okay, that's all you got to do to figure out the rate of change from a table. Figure out how much y is changing, and then figure out how much x is changing. While y is going up by 3 each time, x is going up by 1. So 3 divided by 1 is 3. If this were miles and hours, it would be 3 miles per hour. But we don't know what it actually is. They just gave us x and y. I like to think about miles and hours so that it reminds me that it's speed, and it makes more sense in my head. Okay, so anytime you have a table, all you got to do is figure out the change in y over the change in x. Or if you want to think about it as miles per hour. Okay, now let me go on to the graph. If you notice, the graph also has x and y, but now it is a graph. Don't even sweat it, okay? What you got to do is you have to find some beautiful points right here. Notice how this is a beautiful point, because it lines up with two numbers. This right here, not so much. It lines up with 2 for x, but 2 point something for the y. So you want something that lines up perfectly when you are trying to figure out your x and y for that point. Okay? So these are the ones that I chose for my graph. So what I can do is I can create an ordered pair. This is 3 for the x and 4 for the y. And this right here is 6 for the x and 6, 7, 8 for the y. Okay? Notice how this is x and y, x and y. So what I can do is the same thing as I did in my table, because these are pretty much just values on a table. Okay? If I were to change this into a table, it would just look like this. Let me just do this real quick on the side. 3, 4, 6, 8. Okay? This right here is just a visual way of seeing this right here, the table. So I could have made a graph from this table as well by just plotting 1, 3, which would be like over here, then 2, 6, which would be over here, and 3, 9, which would be up there. Okay? So these two show similar information just in a different way. So what I can do is, if you're familiar with a table, you can do exactly what you did before. From 4 to 8 is plus 4, 3 to 6 is plus 3. So our change in y over change in x is 4/3. You can keep it like that, or you can change it into a decimal, whatever. Okay? So that's the same as 1 and 1/3 if you want to compare it later. Okay? So don't get confused by your graph. If you want to, you can change it into a table. The other way you can find 4/3 is you can use the table. Okay? You might have heard something like rise over run. So basically you just go from your first point and go up 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you get your plus 4. And then run 1, 2, 3, plus 3. That's how you get your plus 3, 4/3. Okay, but again, you don't have to do that. You can just change it into a table, and that might be easier as opposed to drawing some squiggles. Okay, but either way, it's 4/3 or 1 and 1/3, because 4 divided by 3 is 1 and 1/3. Okay, so that's your table and that's your graph. Lastly is the equation. Lots of people get confused with the equation because it just looks confusing, right? Y equals 6.5x. But the equation, when they give you the equation, it's actually the easiest way for you to find your rate of change, because the rate of change is right there. Your rate of change is 6.5. Okay? What that means is 6.5 over 1. So every time y goes up by 6.5, x is going up by 1. Okay? Because remember, any number can be put over 1. So when they give you an equation, man, I don't know how much easier it can get. You just take that number that they have in there and you put it over 1. So every time y goes up by 6.5, x is going up by 1. Okay? So if I wanted to make a table of values for 6.5, I would just have to make sure that it's going up by 1 for the x. So from 1, it would go to 2. And then it would have to go up by 6.5 for the y. So this would be 13. Okay, so if I wanted to do more, I could just do that. This is 19.5. Okay, that's all that 6.5 means. And then if I wanted to change this table into a graph, I would just graph 1 and 6.5. So somewhere over here. And then I would graph 2 and 13, 2, and then I would find 13 and make a point there. Okay, so again, how do you find rate of change from table, graph, or equation? From the table, all you got to do is figure out how much y is changing each time x is changing. Put that over each other. From the graph, you can change it into a table and then do the same thing, or you can use rise over run. And then from an equation, it is just that number that they put in the equation. That's your rate of change. But just make sure you put it over 1. Okay? So hopefully that will help you with the first set of exercises. Remember that you can always re-watch this video if you feel like you need a refresher. The second exercise from yesterday that people were having trouble with was when they give you an equation and you have to graph it. Okay? So there's 2 different ways that you can do this. The first way you can do this, let me just magnify this real quick. First way you can do this is just using that rise over run. Okay? So basically 5 over 3 means you're going up 5 and then you're going over 3. Okay? So if you're starting at 0, you're going up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going over 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So wherever you land, that's your point. You can do it again. Up 5. I like to use different colors so it doesn't get mixed up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 3. 1, 2, 3. And then once you got that, then you're just going to take a ruler, which I don't have right now. And so I'm going to try and draw a straight line. Boom. And then you just connect them. Okay? Why is it like that? Because going up 5, you're going up on the y-axis. Remember we said that it was a change of y over x, right? So you're going up and down the y-axis. Then when you go over 3, you're going sideways on the x-axis. So you're changing on the x. Again, up 5 is on the y-axis. And then over 3 is moving on the x-axis. So that's one way you can do it. It's easiest when they give you a fraction, right? Because then you just go up and over. Okay? The other way you can do this is you can change it into a table, like we talked about earlier, where we change the graph into a table. We can do the reverse, okay? When they give us an equation, we can make a table and then change that table into a graph. All right, so we're going to do that with the second one. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a table. Create one down here. It is 3.5, right? Remember we said the rate of change is just over 1. And it's y over x. So the y is the numerator, 3.5. And then the denominator is x, 1. And we're just going to add that same rate of change each time. So this becomes 2. 3.5 plus 3.5 is 7. So I have my 2 points. I have 1 and 3.5 and 2 and 7. So I'm starting at 0. 1 and 3.5. Here's 1. Here's 1, 2, 3, and a half. So we'll go right here. Okay? Lines up with 1. Let me use my highlighter so you can see that. 1, and then this is 3 and a half because it's 1, 2, 3 and a half. Okay, the next one is 2 and 7. Here's 2, and here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these two got to line up. Let me make sure that's 2, 1, 2, and then 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That lines up. And then I have 3 points, and I can just connect them. and that's my graph. Okay, on Khan Academy, you don't have to draw it out. They already give you the graph, and you just have to put your cursor on the spot and it can draw a dot for you. So it's super easy. Okay, but 2 different ways that you can do that. Remember, you can always go back and rewatch this video if you feel like you need more review. But remember to just let me know if there are any videos or exercises that are challenging for you, and I can help you on your at-home days by making a video for you. Okay? So continue to let me know what your questions are, and I will see you tomorrow.